Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO. Free, impartial advice on all your debt.
This is something that comes along every now and then in generation, and it's special.
Razavan for IFL TV in association with MTK Global on this Sunday afternoon with me, Mr. Matthew Macklin. Matt, how are we doing?
I'm good, thanks. Not bad.
Yeah. Good rest today?
Yeah, had a nice lie-in, which was needed.
Good to hear. Matt, a lot going on in boxing at the moment. Let's start off with Friday. You wrapped the show. Billy Joe Saunders he was quite critical of himself with regards to his performance, but Martin Murray is a tough guy.
Oh, absolutely. Look, Martin Murray should have been a world champion. He's very tough, and not just tough. He's got a very good defense. He's clever as well. He paces the fight so well. And you can see him. You could see him with Billy Joe. He's just sort of trying to edge forward with that front foot, which is trying to put you under pressure with his presence. And I thought Billy Joe boxed well. I mean, he won nearly every round, if not every round, and he was always in control. I think hurt Murray a couple of times as well. But Murray's a tough guy, a proud man. I never thought he was going to get stopped. Do you know what I mean? He's always. He's tough enough and good enough to ride it out. Golovkin at his peak got him there, but it was Golovkin at his peak. There weren't too many people standing up to him at that time. So no, it was. It went pretty much how I thought it would go. I think Murray's not the fighter he was, and it's hard. It's when you get older. You can probably see things better than you ever could because you're more experienced now. But you sort of hesitate that split second too long, and then you miss your chance. And that's when people say, "Oh, he can't pull the trigger." That's what they mean. You can't pull the trigger. You hesitate that split. In top level sport, in football, you're talking half yards. In boxing, it's split seconds. You know what I mean? You miss it. You get the opportunity. You think about it. You maneuver someone into position, and you see it, and you hesitate that split second too long, and then it's gone. That's what I could see. In Murray, he couldn't pull the trigger, and Billy Joe, he's just a lovely boxer to watch. He needs movement. I thought he was overly critical of himself because you got to give credit that you're boxing a guy who's experienced. As Murray knew how to spoil and break his rhythm, and do you know what I mean? Do things like that. But I thought Billy Joe, his hand speed, his distance, his timing, that was all impressive.
We know Billy's kind of had a stop-start career over the last couple of years where he's been crying and dying for those big fights, but they haven't pulled off, and when he's gone into the smaller fights, his performances just haven't been up for it. I read an article the other day where it said Billy Joe turned professional around the same time as James DeGale and Frankie Gavin, who are both retired. Everyone says Billy's now in his peak. Does he have to fight that elite, that Golovkin, Canelo, Andrade now? If he doesn't fight those, then where does he go?
Yeah, I think so. Look, he's had 3 fights, I think, in 3 years, or 4 fights in 3 years. It's not enough to be at the top of your game and to be sharp. You need to be busy. You need to be active. It actually probably was a good thing that he got 12 rounds under his belt last night because he's been inactive and he needed them. But now he needs to push on. He can't be waiting another 10 months, a year to box. He's got to. If I was Billy Joe, I'd want to be boxing in the first quarter of next year. Assuming we're in hands and everything's okay, he's not injured, then I'd be looking to push forward and box ASAP. Definitely in the first quarter, February, March. And I think he needs big fights now because I think he's the type of guy, Billy Joe, he boxes to the level of his opposition. If he's boxing someone who's dangerous, and if it's a 50-50 kind of type fight, he elevates his game, he boxes sharp, you can't touch him. But if he's boxing a guy who he's meant to beat and look good against, so a lot of the time he drops down to their level and he labours to a points win. And then people think, oh, he's not that good. No, he is that good. But he needs to be in with top people to get the best out of himself. So I think it's absolute paramount now that he doesn't waste any more time. And I know it's not all his fault, by the way, as well. It's just things happen, you know, in boxing, politics, fights. Corona happened this year. You know what I mean? It's definitely not all his own fault. You get injured, you're injured. What can you do? It's frustrating, though, that he has been as inactive. So, by hook or by crook, from his own point of view, he has to keep himself. He has to make sure that if fights don't happen, it's nothing to do with him. He has to. That's what you can only control the controllables. Don't get me wrong. You're not in charge of what everyone else does, but he has to make sure that he keeps his weight down, he stays in shape, and he's good to go, ready to go. That he doesn't need loads of notice. That he's there, and then obviously it's MTK and Eddie Hearn's their job to make sure they can secure him the best fights.
Matt, we saw yesterday BT main event Anthony Yarde versus Lyndon Arthur. Again, it seemed like it was a fight that was based on the jab, just like we saw the week before with Dubois and Joyce. Anthony Yarde was obviously rightfully upset at the end where he thought he won the fight, but looking on Twitter and looking at others, how they saw the fight, everyone thought Arthur did enough to win it.
Yeah, well, when I switched it on, it was in the fourth round. Now, at that point, I was listening to the commentary, and it was the general consensus was that he'd won the first three, Lyndon Arthur, and probably did he win the fourth? You know, I remember he was jabbing well and boxing well. Probably from that point on, I thought it was very close. I remember thinking, "Ooh, this is close," because I thought Yarde was landing some nice body shots, straight right hands to the body, jabs to the body, and he was busier and he was pressing the fight as well. There wasn't a lot in it, but I remember thinking, this is close. And then I was looking on Twitter, and obviously I'd missed those first three and a bit rounds. And the general consensus was that Lyndon Arthur had won those. So, yeah, I could see why, you know, do you know what I mean? I don't think it was from what I seen, it was close. Kind of adding the fact that the general consensus was that Lyndon Arthur won the first three, then I would have thought that Arthur would it. But I can't sit here and say, no, I had him winning 6-3. You know what I mean? Because I didn't see the first 3.5 rounds. But certainly the general consensus was that Lyndon Arthur won those first three. You know, and on that then, I would have thought that he probably won it. But it was close. From what I see from the fourth round on, it was very close. And actually, Yarde landed some good body shots, which, you know, they were close rounds. You know, it was a close fight, but I could see why Yarde felt upset from what I seen, because from what I seen, he was pressing the fight, he was landing some good body shots, he was busier in the two. But I think those if Arthur won those first three, then that's, you know, if I've got it close after seeing those last 9, he's won those first three, then, you know, Arthur's won the fight. But yeah, I think just, and even looking at the general consensus, I think it was, most people sort of seem to say that it was you know, it was a close fight, but no one's saying it was really a robbery. You know what I mean?
A lot of people are talking on Twitter, as always, boxing Twitter. I love to talk, but I'm talking about respected people, fighters, and the journalists, etc. Were saying about he wasn't able to adapt to Arthur's style about that jab. We saw Kubra when he fought Kubra. Kubra was very similar as well throughout the fight. Was relying on his jab a lot, and a lot of questions were made about his training team. About maybe, I'm not saying he needs to change, but what people were saying were he needs to have a look at his team, because the instructions that were given to him in the corner weren't the correct instructions. If that makes sense.
Yeah, look, I don't know. Look, everyone's got their own way of doing things. Do you know what I mean? There's been many, many world champions over the years, and lots of them have been chalk and cheese, you know what I mean, in how they prepare for fights. You know, there's more than one way to get there, and everyone's got their own way of doing it. So, you know, it's got him this far. You know what I mean? He's comfortable. He's happy with his team. He could leave and go somewhere else and maybe improve one area, but then completely stop doing something that has made him good. So, I think it's an individual, personal decision. I think there's look, I don't know how true the rumours are that he doesn't spar. If they are true, then I think he should spar. You got to spar. It's the nearest thing you get to fighting. You know, I don't even know if it's true in the first place anyway, you know. But Look, it was a close fight. And Lyndon Arthur's a good fight, and he had a good game plan. And his jab frustrated Yard. You know, Yard's got a good jab, hasn't he? And he's usually probably used to out jabbing people. But I think Lyndon Arthur and his patience. You know, when you're watching someone who's patient and not committing, and you're a counter puncher, because you could see Yard, he's doing the head movements, he's feinting, he's jabbing, and he wants to counter punch. He wants to do that little shoulder roll and come back with his right hand, which he did do really nice a few times. But I think when you got a tall guy, rangy guy, and he's totally focused and switched on, because you can see that's what you could tell with Lyndon Arthur. He was wide-eyed, he was focused, he had a game plan, and he was patient, and he stuck to it. That can be frustrating. You're trying to get the guy to make mistakes. You're feinting him. You want him to commit, and he wasn't. He was just picking him off with the jab. But I thought Yard did good as well. You know, he was working the body. He was trying to. He just probably could have been a bit more urgency a little bit earlier on. You know, I think he probably let those early rounds slip away from him. It's harder then, isn't it? You're chasing a fight. Look, it was billed as, you know, Lyndon Arthur's a good fight. You got to give him credit. You know, you didn't just go in there and lose a fight to someone that it was meant to. Absolutely, people would see this as a 50-50 type fight. So, and it was a close fight. You know, he'll look back and he'll obviously think, maybe should have gone a bit earlier. Maybe should have let my hands go a little bit quicker. But then I don't know. Some of the stuff I just read quickly this morning. That they feel quite strongly that they did win the fight. But I think the general consensus online is that it was a fair decision. That it was not that it was close. That it could have gone either way. There seems to be a bit of uproar about the one particularly wide card, but I think the 115, 114, everyone's kind of saying, no, that's about right. There's nothing wrong with that.
Matt, is it a shame that we live in this in a good way? We live in this Floyd Mayweather era where the zero was so important to him that it's almost bound to other fights as well, that the zero is so important. But the reality is, when you're going to step up and take these 50-50 fights, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. And people like Anthony Yarde, who hasn't had a big amateur career, who's only 14, 15, 16 fights in, he's still learning. Dylan White even says till this day, I'm still learning. I didn't have a long amateur career. Are fans too critical and jumping on the bandwagon when someone loses and says, it's not for you, when the reality is they're still learning, and defeat's only going to make them learn?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, look, I said it the other day about, we were talking about Conor Benn, and I said, you know, you got to remember, Conor Benn didn't have many amateur fights at all over in Australia. He turned pro at, I think, 19. You know, he's 24 years old now, I think. So what I'm saying is, and I've seen massive improvements. His last performance, I'd seen a big improvement from even the last fight. And the last fight before that, there was a big improvement from the one before that. So he is obviously improving, learning, dedicating himself, and he's learning and he's improving. He's going up. The rate of improvement is big each fight. Where's he going to be in 3 years' time when he's 27? You know, if he can stay busy and have four or five fights a year, say 4, that's 12 fights in 3 years. And if he keeps improving every fight, where's he going to be then? You don't know how he could be unbelievable in 3 years' time. Where if you've got someone who's turned pro at 25, 24, 25, and had 200 or 300 amateur fights, boxed in the Olympics, they're going to adapt to the pro game and they're going to improve. Of course they are, but their rate of improvement isn't going to be as great. You wouldn't think, because they're already so good. They've already had so much experience. I'm not going to say they're the finished article, because they're not, but that, you know what I mean? The rate of improvement isn't going to be as great for them. They're going to get better, but they're already top turning pro. Do you know what I mean? They've done WSB. They could probably turn pro and beat nearly anyone outside of the top 5 over 5 or 6 rounds. Do you know what I mean? So their rate of improvement isn't going to be as great, but their starting point is going to be very high. When you go to someone like Conor Benn, you take your time with someone like that, because he's learning on the job. You know what I mean? And likewise, Anthony Yarde, you know, he didn't have a massive amateur experience, but it is crucial that he learns now in all these fights. Like last night didn't go his way, But that's not the end of the world for Anthony Yarde. He's a good fighter, and he's getting better. You know what I mean? The Kovalev lost. That wasn't a bad loss. He fought better than most people thought he was going to do, and actually, you know, ticked a lot of boxes, and will have come out of it a better fighter. So, look, Anthony Yarde is a good fighter, and he don't come a bad fighter. It was a close fight. He can come again, definitely. There's without a doubt, and will improve and get better. You know, he might have thought he trained hard before. When you lose, you know, you evaluate everything so much more closely, so much more with a fine-tooth comb, because you know you're in pain. You lose a fight, you are hurting, man. You are pain. You look over everything that you do in preparations for the fight. So, look, he's going to be disappointed, but it's far from the end of the world. He lost in a very close fight to a very good fighter, and I'm sure they will fight each other again at some point.
Absolutely. Matt, last week we saw the return in the ring of Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. I'm sure you stayed up to watch for it because I know you were super excited about the fight. A great performance, a great event actually by Thriller Productions. Were you surprised? They announced sometime this week that they projected it did 1.2 to 1.5 million buys at around $50.
Yeah, I was a little surprised, to be honest with you. But then again, you know, I don't know. The boat. I mean, for me, I didn't really have any interest in that fight because what was it? You know, what was it for? What does it? You know, I didn't want to see either guy get knocked out or hurt. So I didn't. You know, you didn't think you're hoping, and you're not thinking that's going to happen because it's just an exhibition. But you never know. Do you know what I mean? And I just thought, look, if it was on at prime time, 9 o'clock in the UK, I would have watched it. But I wasn't going to, you know, stay up to watch it. But I don't know. Look, they're both guys. The two of them have got massive profiles. You know, they're legends of boxing. So, you know, I mean, who knows what sells these days? That KSI and that Logan Paul. I didn't even know who they were this time last year, and they did massive numbers. So maybe that's my age, a generational thing. I don't know.
You never know. We might see a Holyfield Tyson trilogy fight, and I think that might smash the all-time pay-per-view record.
Maybe.
Matt, we almost entering upon fight week. Anthony Joshua returns back to the ring. Before we talk about the fight itself, good to have £1,000 back in.
Sorry, yes, definitely. It's been very strange working on these fights this year with no crowd. It's don't get me wrong. I suppose you adapt and you adjust and you kind of get used to it. But yeah, really looking forward to having some fans back. Even just you know, I know it's only 1,000 people, but you know, you can know you're pretty sure they're going to be loud. You know what I mean? So there's still going to be an atmosphere there, and yeah, looking forward to that.
Anthony Joshua's obviously been out of the ring almost a year now. Last time he was out was to reclaim his belts in Saudi Arabia. Do you expect ring rust? Do you expect him to take his time in this fight?
I don't know. He's obviously a different. It's a very different fight for him this time in terms of psychologically. You know, going into Ruiz after New York, there was a lot of potential, you know, psychological demons, issues there, which he dealt with brilliantly. So they're out the way now. Do you know what I mean? He's back. He's world champion. He's back up there. So I think, I think we might see a more aggressive Anthony Joshua. I think I don't think he'll look for the knockout to force it. I think he'll just establish his jab and get boxing. But I think if it comes, then he'll definitely go with it. I think in the rematch with Ruiz, he wasn't even looking for the knockout. I think he was thinking, just keep this long, just box, keep mobile, don't stand there and exchange with a shorter guy who's got faster hands, which he did in New York. So I think it's a very different, tactically, this will be a very different fight, and I'm sure he'd love to get the knockout.
I know TV networks have a role in promoting fights, sometimes promote fights that are not worthy of being promoted to that particular level. However, Kubra Pulev, I know he's only lost, I believe, to Klitschko. I think it's only one loss, I believe, top of my head. But what does he have left, and is he a threat?
I mean, he was a good fighter. He was a good amateur. I believe he was an Olympian. I know he was a good international boxer. So he was well schooled, experienced in that regard. Like I say, I think he lost to Klitschko. He's mandatory challenger. I don't think he's a top 5 heavyweight now. I don't think he's probably top 10. So he's a contender. Does he deserve to be mandatory? I don't know, but he is. So he's got to fight him. It is what it is. Look, they're big guys, aren't they? They're big guys. He can punch Pulev. So Joshua can't afford to switch off. Especially after regaining his titles. Now all of a sudden, we're on the cusp of hopefully seeing Joshua and Fury for the undisputed. Then you just can't take your eye off the ball. Which I'll be amazed if he did. I think he did that in New York. He took his eye off the ball, and look what happened. So I think there can be no room for errors now, and he's got to just face Pulev with the same sort of work ethic. He's got to approach this fight in preparation with the same mental approach, the same everything as he would if he's fighting Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder.
You mentioned in New York, obviously, Ante admits himself that he did have one eye on Deontay Wilder, who also during that week announced his fight with Dominic Brazil, I believe, during Ante Joshua's first fight week with Ruiz. Now, there's a lot of talk at the moment.
No, he just knocked out Brazil, and he announced the fight with Fury. Was it
Ortiz?
No, he announced the fight with Ortiz, and then announced that he'd fight Fury or something after that. He announced 2 fights that week. He just beat Brazil, and then he has 2 fights that week, which was clearly to take the attention away from Joshua Ruiz. Of course it was. Do you know what I mean? Why would you announce it that week? You're going to get more press if you announce it the week after. But that week, it took the press away that everyone's talking. And, Andy Joshua is human. We had this fighters meeting with all the TV, different stations and that with Anthony Joshua a few days before the fight. And he was there for an hour and a half talking with everybody. And I think there was 2 questions in that whole time that was asked about Ruiz. All the rest was asked about Wilder. So it wasn't Joshua. Joshua was probably trying to stay focused on Ruiz. But when all the media and press are asking you about Fury and Wilder and Pete Heyman and Wilder, you're human, aren't you? Your focus is going to get shifted. And that's what happened. He took his eye off the ball and he paid the price. So Pulev, I'd be amazed if it happens again. I think Joshua will be totally focused on Pulev, and rightly so, because Pulev, although he's not one of the top few contenders, he's still a dangerous opponent.
We talk about that though, Matt, but we know that in principle the split has been agreed between Fury and Joshua for their 2-fight deal when it's announced. Eddie's talking about Tyson Fury should be ringside. Isn't that igniting more pressure on Joshua if Fury does turn up ringside? The split has already been agreed. We want the Fury fight next. Fury don't fight Wilder. Isn't that psychologically putting pressure on AJ?
No, look, when I say he can't look past it, he can't take his eye off the ball, and I gave the example about New York when everyone was talking about Wilder and not Ruiz. People still have to be promoted. You're the fighter. Your job is just take it one fight at a time. But it's your manager and your promoter's job. They have to be thinking ahead. They have to be building next fights. And getting Fury there at ringside and getting him interviewed after, assuming Joshua wins, that's all. You're already setting up that fight. You know what I mean? So things aren't going to stay still. In case a fighter looks past the fight, but it's your job as the fighter and your trainer and that to make sure that you're totally focused and you're not looking past it, because stuff are going to be going on in the background, and you'll hear of it as well as a fighter, because you just will. But you just have to kind of take it in and then forget about it and then reset your focus. Which, look, once bitten, twice shy, and you learn from your mistakes. So I think whatever talk there is of Fury, I don't think Joshua will allow himself to get too. He'll answer the questions, I'm sure, but I don't think he'll be sitting there for an hour and a half while we talk about Fury. Do you know what I mean? And one question's asked about Pulev. I don't think that'll happen. You know what I mean?
Okay. All right, Matt. Any plans for the rest of the day?
Not much. What's that?
Sunday roast?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Get your hands down. Hopefully we'll come down to a behind the scenes on Matt does and how Matt prepares his Sunday roast. Matt, always a pleasure. Thank you, mate. Macklin on TV, thank you very much.
This is something that comes along every now and then in generation, and it's special.
Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free impartial advice on all your debt.